Welcome to PCMC. I'm Mike. I'm joined today by Janine Guillotine Gagliardi.
Hello.
How are you, Janine?
I'm good. I took a COVID test before you got here.
Good.
I'm just, it's allergy season and I get a pretty bad nasal drip annually. So now I have it, but I'm also I got some sun today, so I feel a little flushed. I'm like, okay, well, let me just make sure before he comes over, and I breathe on all his microphones. But I'm okay. Well, I'm brave. I'm living bravely with allergies.
Thank you. We're all impressed. I had it a month ago.
Right.
Or 3 weeks ago.
Right.
And Jen had it 2 weeks ago.
I know.
So I feel like, you could obviously get it again because you could get the flu again. But I feel like it's too soon. Doesn't have to be a new strain for me to get it again.
Yeah. Well,
can I get the exact same? I feel like it would be.
No, you can't get. I don't think you can get the same one
because I feel like what's around is the same one that I probably had. I'm not a scientist.
There's so many around, though. I know multiple people now who have gotten it twice in a month.
Really?
Yeah.
God damn! I guess I was wrong.
But
sounds like I was way off.
It was. I know.
But they were acting a fool.
I know definitely in one case it was a different strain.
Wow.
Because they got tested immediately because they were like, I just had COVID, so I'm sure it's not COVID.
Wow.
And a lot of people have been getting the flu right after COVID. So that's common as well. And then they got tested. And I don't think it's something you can get a PCR to test for strains. I think your doctor has to
Yeah, you can't. You
check
don't know.
it. So, but yeah, they confirmed that it was a different strain.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, ever since I had it, I've been really loosey-goosey with my mask, which I guess the whole world's loosey-goosey with it now,
yeah,
but I always tried to be more...
We're sort of we always respect if there's, any indication that you should or have to, but we're kind of post-mask right now. I don't know. Just us personally. Not that we don't believe in it. We do. We think it's effective, but...
There are situations for it, and,
outdoors, unless... someone has instructed us please wear a mask, well, we absolutely will, but outdoors otherwise it's okay, well, it's fine. And I'm not looking sideways at people who are wearing masks outside. I get it, I totally understand, but yeah, for us we're just kind of not right now. I don't know, you might have to cut this. I don't want the mask people to come after us.
That's right. I've been in situations where I was the only one wearing a mask and everyone was eyeing me up.
Yeah. Oh, I'm the only person on the...
Look at this liberal.
I'm the only person on the school pickup line who wears a mask, and it's very, very simple. 2 reasons. One, the school has not changed their directions of they basically begged us at the beginning of the school year to please wear masks on the school pickup line, and out of respect for the administration, I'm wearing the mask because they have not changed that policy. Because if there's one thing I know about
you, it's you respect the administration.
I respect the school administration. No, I genuinely like there's it's such a small school. There's 4 administrators there, and I genuinely like them all as people. They're very nice. Mm-hmm. So out of respect for them, and they always wear it on the pickup line, so I wear it as well. But the other reason, and it's very, very simple, and it applies to all scenarios, if Henry has to wear it, I wear it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like the whole do as I say, not as I do. I think you should lead by example. So I wear it.
Yeah. Well, I feel you.
And people do look at me sideways. I saw a woman mouth to her husband she's still wearing the mask. And I'm yes. And you should too, because you're ugly.
Well, this is PCMC. Today's episode is about the topic of cannon. Now, not cannons that you shoot enemy pirate ships with.
This is a history podcast.
And not...
I was researching so many different kinds of cannons.
And not the camera. The cannon.
No, not Canon cameras, no.
Cannon as in... Well, in its contemporary parlance, it means continuity.
Yeah.
But it's a biblical term, canon.
Right. And wait, I'm sorry, Bill, I'm going to have to bring you in. What about musically?
I don't know. There's canon and day, but...
Right, because you'll hear like a song is referred to as canon. A general law, rule, principle, or criterion by which something is judged. Okay. A church decree or law.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about.
A collection or list of sacred books accepted as genuine. The formation of a biblical
Yeah,
canon.
that term, though, that definition, I feel, is less used. People less say, like, oh, this is in the canon of important work. You know what I mean? Like, now it seems to be synonymous with continuity.
Yeah.
Yeah, we want to talk about canon. We want to talk about...
Oh, or the highest quality. A list of works considered to be permanently established as being of the highest quality.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. And it's also the part of the mass containing the words of the consecration. Oh. In music, it's a piece in which the same melody is begun in different parts successively so that the imitations overlap. I don't know. Take it up with the New Oxford English Dictionary.
And I will.
Good.
Actually, I love OED. OED for life. Webster's is for punks. Webster's.
Get out of here.
Get that shit out of my house.
Okay. So then, yeah. All right.
Yeah. But thank you very much for the OED actual definition. Yeah, because you know why I say that? Only because I remember one time I said something about canon. I was talking about Doctor Who canon. And my dad was like, canon? Like religion?
Yeah.
Like he was not used to the
pop culture
term,
parlance of, I know, I get it.
Yeah.
And it's changed, like, within our lifetime, certainly.
Well, canon has become so important. And I think, I think the easy answer is to say Marvel movies. But yes, I think the more intricate answer is to say, like, intellectual property management and synergy and just an understanding that media now is people have a complexity in terms of the way they follow things. Like, I was thinking about how some old sitcoms would have, like, no canon. Like, something can happen in one episode. Like, a character get fired, and then, like, in the next episode, he's not fired anymore. Yeah. Like, literally, it's like... And we didn't care either. But now, there are all sorts of people who they see their job as, like, being canon explainers. Like, Star Wars Explained is a YouTuber who spends all of his time bending backwards
trying to make
to
everything
explain.
fit.
Yeah, which is crazy to me because it's like
this concept didn't even exist really when they were making the films.
Why can't you why is it invalid to say Obi-Wan doesn't recognize R2-D2 because in the original script it was not then a decision in George Lucas's mind that R2-D2 would be part of the adventure before that part and would know Obi-Wan. Right. You don't have to go into an in-depth thing about like, oh, well, he's pretending not to know him. And, right. Which comes from some comic or some book because they'll throw things in there to try to like fix it. It's like, why does it break it in two for you? Like, to me, it's like, I understand the joys of it, but I also wonder about why people are so like attached to it.
I think just human beings, I'm just going to make a very broad statement and say human beings like when things, logically follow or sort of like make sense, right? Yeah. And so if it doesn't, I don't know, it feels unfinished or it feels messy or it feels like it just doesn't flow well. And I think people have difficulty rectifying that. Like, I think people don't like holding two truths at the same time, right? Like these things can both be true.
Yes. Yes.
And I think people struggle with it.
Luke went on adventures and got married, or he lived on an island in fear.
Right.
And you can and the fact that you could pick up a book that has either of these things seems to bother people.
They really want uniformity, and they want, this is the story, right? This is the canon. This is what we sing, in church. This is what we say. These are the words. Yeah. And it's funny because, Star Wars, Marvel, DC, all these things, like superheroes, these are our, people say it all the time. This is our modern mythology. Yeah. This is our folklore. And the thing about folklore and mythology is it's an oral tradition. It is typically, and there's so many versions, right? There's rarely one version. There's something usually about a hero or a story that there's a lot of the same features that appear, but it's, there's variations, and the variations are always really cool. Like you can find, I listen to Aaron Mahnke's podcast Lore. I love it. And his whole thing is like, seeking out the weird different versions that we haven't heard before. Because ultimately, like it's rote, we know it. We know it back and forth.
Right.
So I like the variation, but I think people struggle with that. They want it a certain way.
I always thought it was so interesting that in the Bible, the story of Moses and the story of Jesus are so similar. It's like the same story reconfigured within the same text, although it's not a text really as much as like we make it a text. But yeah, you're right. It's like the Joseph Campbell thing, the hero with 1,000 faces and stuff. But I agree with your general statement about people wanting things to fit. I also think that because of our contemporary media consumption, where we have everything at our fingertips,
we're not meant to remember easier
things.
To pick up.
Yeah. Like even so-called series now, or just long films. Like you can't watch episode 2 of some HBO show.
Right.
You'll have no fucking idea what's going on. So I think that's part of it. But I also think it's been cultivated over the last 15, 20 years to a point now where I think what I'm beginning to latch on to is things that are like going against canon or disregarding canon.
Right. Okay.
I think DC's a good example of that.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. So when we were discussing doing this episode, we were like, what are the limitations of canon, right?
Yeah.
And because canon it can be extremely limiting, right? And it removes sort of possibility from happening, like what ifs. Right. Marvel did a whole what if series recently.
But that's a way of doing canon out in canon.
Right. Yeah. So we discussed this a couple of episodes back where you were talking about the multiverse and like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And I said, well, it's because they canon themselves into a corner, right? And they have no place else to go. So now this allows for them to do, a lot of different things that they wouldn't normally be able to do. Like just opening up the multiverses. Well, this is a version over here and this is a version over there. Yeah. I just watched Marvel Eternals last night, and right at the beginning, it's sort of its like own contained story, which is cool. I like when Marvel does that, but because it's Marvel, they have to connect it to the other films, right? And they're like, "Well, why didn't you help when Thanos came?" Right? And Cersei, the character Cersei's answer is, well, we have to let humanity fight their own battles. I was like, okay. But then later, Salma Hayek's character, so then it's revealed that like the more war there is on Earth, the better it is for their mission because it causes wars cause technological advancements, and it ends up causing the populations to explode, and like that's what they want.
Dick Cheney in Eternal?
Yeah, he's the Celestial. So like that's their mission. But then later on, Salma Hayek's character says like, oh, the snap actually removed humans from the Earth and actually all across the universe, and it prevented the emergence, which is what they want to happen, from happening. So it's like, well, then they should have gotten involved because it completely went against their mission. So they're struggling to keep it in the canon.
Yeah, and it's interesting because people go, well, what's cool about the Marvel Cinematic Universe is it does what comics do, which is has a shared continuity where someone can guest star in someone else's comic. But I feel like people are also forgetting the other thing that comics do is have various versions. Yeah. Have this run by this artist who does it this way, and then have this run by this artist. You could have 5 Batmans going at once from different artists doing it different ways. So, like, that's just as much, I think, a part of what makes comics interesting. Yeah. But you don't see that at all from Marvel. I mean, I feel like I'm not a film director, but I don't see, other than the money, I don't see why a director would want to make a Marvel movie. It sounds like you have very little control. Yeah. And it sounds like you have no autonomy in terms of what you want to do.
I actually don't think canon is a bad thing. I think that a lot of I mean, I actually think it is. You were saying the easy answer is Marvel. I think it's because they've just dominated movies for the last 20 years. And they so rigorously engineered the canon from, like they had a blueprint from the first film, like moving forward. That's why they have, their phases. And like we announced the phases. And like the phases have become common terminology, which is really just supposed to be like corporate speak for like, this is when we're rolling out these movies, but like people know about it, you know, because it represents like, where in the canon we are essentially. And I think it's done. I think they did it very successfully, and I think they're actually kind of getting themselves out of it with a good idea. But it remains to be seen how they're going to progress forward, because like they're not just going to stop making money because they did the Infinity War movies. Like they're not going to stop doing those. I think the strength of canon is that when it feels continuous, as it has for like 2 decades now, then audiences become extremely attached to the characters, right? Because now they're seeing this journey, and nothing really contradicts, and everything is going linearly. And they're like, okay, this character has come on this crazy journey, and I'm really attached to them. So it makes it, I don't know, it brings it potency, right? So like if they die, it's a big death, or if something changes dramatically for them, it's like a shocking loss. And I think that's the strength of canon. But I think the weakness is that it's limiting. Yes. But I think with DC, you don't necessarily have to rely on that to create something that's powerful. Like I just saw the new Batman movie not too long ago. And it's excellent. And it feels self-contained. And I don't think there needs to be a sequel. I'll go watch one if they make it. But it's very good on its own. Yeah. It's very, very good. And within the span of a, 3-hour movie, they've made me care about the characters. I care about the stakes. Yeah. But that's, some might argue, that's how movies should be. Like, you have a limited amount of time, and you need to make, like, your job is to make the audience care.
But, I think that there was a time, not just there was a time for most of movie history, or, before the last 20 years, where canon was not that important. And I feel like now, like with DC, I don't think that they are saying canon's not important. I think canon is such a big thing that they are responding to it in their own way. Okay. Like, they're not just forgetting about it and not caring about it. They are purposefully doing the opposite. They're purposely saying, okay, because remember, they're still in the same game as everyone else, as IP is king. So they're not going to only have one Batman thing out at a time.
There's 2 Batmans right now? Because Ben Affleck's not out.
Right. Well, technically his world, I think he might be out, but his world is still going. Like,
I feel like there's a Snyderverse continuity. But is it a canon? Like, have they already contradicted within like the Snyder stuff?
Well, we'll see. Well, that's another topic I want to put a pin in, because I, in fact, think that as much as they sell the idea of canon, you could find breaks in all the canon. There's plenty. It really doesn't all work.
No. Well, like I was just saying, they were trying with the Eternals. It does not make any sense at all.
Right. You've got the Snyderverse, which would include Wonder Woman and Suicide Squad and the Peacemaker show. So Batman's not in those things, but that would still be that Batman.
Right, and the Suicide Squad does not feel like it's in the same universe as the Wonder Woman films.
But it's supposed to be.
But it's supposed to be, and it feels very different. Yeah. That's, I think, the other thing. Well, I guess what you were saying with Marvel, it's like their aesthetics match.
Yeah, there's never a tonal difference.
Yeah, really, Ragnarok was I would say, the departure from that. But I feel like they get away with it because it's... And Guardians of the Galaxy to a certain extent, because it's all in space. It's not happening here.
Well, they have but I feel like, they do the sort of Jack Kirby cosmic Marvel.
It's like brighter colors.
Right, yeah. The new Thor movie looks like that, and the Taika Waititi stuff. But still, it feels like there's never a huge aesthetic departure. It's funny. Something that I thought was so interesting that I felt like it was a joke in the Peacemaker TV show. Yeah. Every TV shows now, like, they'll have like last time on Gilmore Girls or whatever. Right. So on the very first episode of Peacemaker, it said last time in Suicide Squad. And it showed clips from Suicide Squad as the setup for this show. Yeah. And I thought that's so interesting. But it felt a little tongue-in-cheek too. Like, this is a continuation of that. Yeah. It's interesting because there's a flattening. And, you can't help but think that feel like it's cool. It is cool to watch characters over long periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, serialized narratives have their own power.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've seen this forever, from soap operas to television shows to
Right, but I mean, talk about soap operas. So I watched 2 soap operas growing up.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother was like my primary caretaker,
Mm-hmm.
and well, I mean, my parents worked. They were I was raised by my parents, but they were not home most of the time.
Sure.
So we watched soap operas all the time, and we watched All My Children and One Life to Live, and it's just they're on for years. They're on every day.
Right.
And they really do stretch out storylines. Like people will be having a conversation for 4 days in a row. You know, it'll be like, because they just cut between
right.
tens of characters. But they treat canon as very just like in terms of convenience. Like they'll pick up canon when it's convenient for them, so they can link a storyline. But otherwise, it's not very important. And so they'll, go every which way. And then if they want to add some drama in to the season, they'll be like, oh, remember this thing that we talked about, a year or two ago.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to bring it back now because this person is actually related to this person. But otherwise it's not. And I feel like that's how it's treated. It was treated sort of historically. Like when they needed it, they would use it.
I think a similar canon like that is Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
I think Doctor Who, unlike like Marvel and Star Wars, both have Star Wars has Kathleen Kennedy and Marvel has Kevin Feige, and they're the kind of kings of the continuity, kings of the canon. But in Doctor Who, it's whoever the showrunner is.
Okay, yeah.
And even the radio people have to defer to them. Oh. Like literally, you become the king of canon while you're the showrunner. And I mean, I'm sure BBC has some say, like you couldn't do something wild, but in terms of what counts, what doesn't. And with Doctor Who, there are some things that count, some things that don't. I mean, there are a whole thing, like the 8th Doctor who appeared in just a TV movie.
Just the movie, right? Yeah.
He was half human.
McGann.
Yeah.
It's Bill's favorite.
No, isn't McGann 7? No, that's McCoy.
Sylvester McCoy.
Yeah.
He wore a winter rain jacket.
Yeah. So he's half human, but that
he's half human.
Yeah. Who knows why? But
okay, sure.
That is still, that Doctor's still in canon,
right?
But no one talks about that. He said that.
Yeah.
And
so they ignore it because it's convenient to ignore it.
Right, they could ignore things, they could pull things in, they could take things that were never totally explained in the past.
Mm-hmm.
There was a whole arc way early on with the 4th Doctor of the Valeyard, and who's the Valeyard, and the Valeyard is this evil person that's going to come and destroy everything, and then they were the Doctor's the Valeyard, but that never really made sense.
Yeah.
And then way later in the Matt Smith years, they kind of try to be oh, the Valeyard was a name that they called me, maybe. They kind of tried to play with it. Something big just happened in Doctor Who canon, which is both gigantic in terms of how it changed things, but also tried to level things.
Okay.
Which is something that happens sometimes when canon becomes too much of a monkey on your back.
Okay.
So from I think the 3rd Doctor on, they started with the Doctors from planet Gallifrey, and then there were Time Lords and blah blah, and then the Matt Smith era got super into that, and actually the whole Russell T Davies era got super into. There was a war, and the Doctor, Gallifrey was fighting the Daleks and blah 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 blah. And around the 50th anniversary, they got crazy into it.
Yeah,
and
John Hurt came.
Yeah,
and he was the Doctor.
He was a Doctor who didn't count.
It was a missing Doctor.
Yeah, right. Because they didn't want to change the number.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's an example of when you should forget canon. At one point early on, they were how many generations does the Doctor have? Well, he has 12.
Right,
but this was the 60s.
Yeah,
and they were we'll never get to 12.
Right.
And they had to do a whole storyline of how he gets more.
Yeah.
Which, you didn't have to do that. Russell T Davies, in one of his shows, someone asked the Doctor, how many do you have? And he says 712. Mm-hmm. I don't know why they felt they had to deal with that.
Yeah.
I would have just ignored it. But
also because is anyone ever, I guess the Doctor is supposed to be, but is anyone ever a total authority on anything? How many people do you talk to on a daily basis who make a mistake about information they're supposed to know? It's supposed to be a fact.
Right.
So it's I didn't know.
Right, exactly. Oh, I thought I only had 12.
I went back to Gallifrey. Turns out I have a lot. Yeah. It's fine.
So the current showrunner, Chris Chibnall, who is the showrunner for the Jodie Whittaker series.
Now, are they changing her out anytime soon?
Yes,
Okay.
she's leaving, and also Russell T Davies is returning.
What?
Yeah, he's been gone since David Tennant left.
David Tennant, yeah.
And people are so happy because people tend to like his shit.
It's a good run. Yeah,
The
it's
best.
good. It's good stuff.
I mean, it was of the new series is Russell Davies, then
Moffat.
Stephen Moffat,
Yeah.
and then Chibnall. And Chibnall was there not that long. And people have not liked his writing. People have not liked the series. People have not liked Jodie Whittaker. I think people are a little fatigued. I actually think Doctor Who should go to sleep for a little while again.
Yeah.
Like
pre-Eccleston.
Yeah.
Although that wasn't really for that many years. It seemed like it was, but it wasn't.
No, well, it was 14 or 16 between the 80s and 2005.
Between the 80s and 2005, but then the McGann one was in between, right?
Yeah. Well, anyway, so what Chibnall did was he started this other thing where he was like, oh, the timeless child. Who's the timeless child? Well, of course, it's always the Doctor, right? So basically, this is what Chibnall did. Chibnall said, everything we told you is actually a lie.
Mm-hmm.
The Doctor's not part of a race of people called Time Lords. In fact, the Doctor comes from we have no idea where, and the Time Lords adopted the Doctor and based everything they got off of him, and the Doctor has endless regenerations, but they capped it. In fact, the Doctor has thousands of regenerations before he even remembers it, so he has past lives that he doesn't know about. So it's a huge, huge, huge change.
Right.
But at the same time, it's leveling because it says
this is why nothing makes sense.
Right. But it's also
because he doesn't even know the truth.
Right. And it levels things out by going. It brings us back to episode 1 of Doctor Who, which is we know nothing about this guy. So it's a huge change of throwing out everything we know. But where it feels fresh and actually freeing is by opening it all up again.
Yeah.
Because we did get to a point after the 50th anniversary where we knew every answer.
Yeah.
We knew everything.
Yeah.
And then now we're at this point again where, no, we don't know anything. Everything we thought, the Doctor's literally back to we have no idea who they are, where they came from. But, Chibnall said someone asked him in an interview, do you think Russell T Davies will keep that? And he's like, probably not. Because they don't have to. Whoever the current showrunner is can do whatever they want.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because you don't see that autonomy in other places.
Right. So, okay. So we were also talking about what happens when one person controls the canon. And what are some examples of that? And I think for a while, it was George Lucas.
He did it in a very interesting way that no one doesn't anymore. Before Disney, which is, I guess, besides Marvel, Disney buying Star Wars is the other big canon thing that happened in the last 20 years. Because Disney came out of the gate saying, everything after Return of the Jedi is not canon anymore. So we can build our own sequels. And also, everything will be canon now. Which they've already broke. But Lucas didn't have that. Lucas had tiers of canon. There was G canon, which was what he called canon.
Okay.
The George canon. Then there was various levels of canon.
Okay.
Like and I'm sorry, I don't remember what they were called, but literally there were different levels, and you could do something that he would be like, oh, that's interesting. I don't think that is my canon.
Right.
So, it was interesting to have different levels.
That's so wild.
Yeah. We currently kind of have different levels, if only for the fact that they wanted to keep printing all of those books and stuff. So they slapped this thing on it called Legends. So all of that other stuff
I see.
So you've got official canon, then you've got Legends, which is all of that other comics, all those other books, the Mara Jane stories, all of those stories that people loved about Luke and that sequel trilogy, the Thrawn sequel trilogy, which people really like. But another interesting thing about Star Wars canon is they pilfer old canon for new canon.
To make
like
new
Thrawn
canon,
came back. All these things end up coming back. Sometimes in different time periods, sometimes in different ways. And fans tend to love it when they come back.
Well, okay, so what I feel like we can go in one of two directions right now, which is how fans treat canon or when one person controls canon. Because what I was going to bring up, because George Lucas is one aspect of it, or we can just go right into Star Wars talk, was J.K. Rowling.
Who?
You know her. Famous TERF.
Oh.
Noted TERF.
Do you mean the writer of Secrets of Dumbledore?
That's right. No, the
secret.
But Robert Galbraith, the author of Cuckoo's Calling. You know the book. Yeah. Okay.
So is she canon bearer?
I believe so. Yeah, she has to sign off on everything for Harry Potter.
I see.
Yeah. But none of it makes sense anymore.
Is that right?
Yeah. So the films, like the Fantastic Beasts films, which the Fantastic Beasts, they still like tag it on to the title, but it gets smaller and smaller and smaller every time I see it because it's like it's not really.
They have to put a beast in every movie just to justify
to make it
why.
Because they got Oscar winner Eddie Redmayne, and he really doesn't serve a function anymore in these films. He just has to be there because I guess he's contractually obligated and they have to pay him. So they've made these Fantastic Beasts films, but they really have nothing to do with Fantastic Beasts anymore. Yeah. It was just a way
And he's Scarf Starfighter? What's his name?
Newt Scamander. You know.
Yeah.
It's like Lizard Salamander is his name.
What did he win an Oscar for?
Playing Stephen Hawking? Yeah, Stephen Hawking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Theory
of Everything, that's right. I've seen it. He's very good.
No, I've seen that too, but have you seen
very good
Jupiter Rising? When you were super into The Matrix, did you watch Jupiter Rising?
No, I didn't. I wanted to watch that when you told me not to.
Bad in it.
See? I thought he was just like campy.
I don't know if I don't know. I don't know if yikes.
Well,
anyway.
Yeah, and they've already they've had to change their lead actor because they had to switch out Johnny Depp. They brought in Mads Mikkelsen to play the role, and now it's just a Dumbledore prequel story.
Yeah,
which is fine. His life seems very interesting.
We might see it tomorrow. We might buy a ticket for something else and then sneak into it.
Oh, good.
So we don't give J.K. any of our money.
But you have to pay Eddie Redmayne. he needs the money.
I rented. I watched Jupiter Sunday, so he owes me.
He owes you money.
He fucking owes me. He knows what he did. He commits to a voice in that movie. He's like, he's Eddie Redmayne. You've got just watch a supercut of Eddie Redmayne.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm just gonna watch it for fun.
Oh boy.
I'm just gonna watch it for fun.
But okay. But it don't make sense anymore.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all because so Harry Potter is one of those stories that actually is sort of Kevin Feige level engineered, right? That from book one, she had, or pre-book one, really, she had an idea of how this thing was going to play out and how it was going to end. We went to the, what was it, the Historical Society, Bill? Was it the National Historical Society? The National Historical Society did a Harry Potter exhibit. And it had all of her writings and her little notes and stuff from the early 90s. And she had stuff that was coming, she had the Deathly Hallows stuff.
So she
she planned it out pretty meticulously. And that's why Harry Potter really flows. There's very few things that don't fit. It works. It works for as a canon.
Right.
You have, these are the books and this is what works. And then she wrote a couple of other little things and they all kind of fit.
Yeah.
And she kept that in mind. Now, to make money, to make movies, she's going back and doing these prequel films. Well, she's not. I mean, Warner Brothers is. But she's signing off, and I think she's doing the screenplays.
Yeah, she's
for
more involved in these than she even was with.
Yeah, she sort of had a hands-off approach. Films. She's a very hands-on approach now, and none of it fucking makes any sense.
Well, who's
McGonagall is a teacher
at
Hogwarts. Just so they could have a teacher that we knew there.
Right.
You see a younger witch come out and chase the students out of a classroom or something, and they're like, McGonagall, and it doesn't make sense.
Isn't Voldemort Snake a character?
Old. Voldemort Snake is there.
A lady?
Yes, she is a lady. Yeah.
Was Voldemort Snake always a lady?
No.
I thought it was a snake.
No, just a snake.
All right, who is Mads Mikkelsen?
Grindelwald.
Now,
Grindelwald is in the books.
Okay. Is he the worst?
He's supposed to be Wizarding World Hitler prior to Voldemort coming along.
Because I've not read any of the book. No, that's not true. I read the first book. I have not seen any of the Fantastic Beasts movies. But just from the vibe I'm getting, it feels like they're this guy's the worst guy ever, and it's but I thought Voldemort was the worst guy ever.
No, he's So Grindelwald, as per the Harry Potter canon, was an evil wizard who was really into race purity and has the initial ideas that then Voldemort takes and runs with and goes crazy with, right? And so he does have, like, they're both Hitler analogs, kind of.
Okay.
But he was also, like, very handsome. He was also very smart. He was also interested in a lot of the same things Dumbledore was.
It seems like they're making him and Dumbledore into, like, Professor X.
X and Magneto. Exactly. Yes. Like, they share very similar goals, but they have completely different approaches on how. And they kiss a lot. Yeah. And
Charles? Come here and give me a smooch.
So they are hot for each other, but
not too hot.
Never on screen. You know, always off book, off screen. They're super, like, she'll say, like, oh yeah, they're super gay, but we don't have to look at it. Like, you know what? I respect you, but I don't want your views shoved down my throat.
Yes.
You know, that's how she approaches it.
I love the guy who does pitch meetings. The YouTube channel pitch meetings. He just did one for the new Fantastic Beasts, and he's like, oh yeah, there's plenty of gay stuff in it, but like stuff that's easy to cut out for China.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. So, for the sake of these movies, like, a lot of the Harry Potter canon is just kind of going away.
Because you want to see fucking McGonagall.
Yeah, because we need McGonagall there. We need characters that we know from the Harry Potter movies, because otherwise, like, how is this going to work? How are we going to care about brand new characters? The films aren't strong enough, certainly.
Oh, the Fantastic, and they might be done now. They were supposed to do 5. I think they might cancel it after this one.
Well, yeah, they've had so many problematic leads, because, like, Ezra Miller now is having all kinds of legal problems.
He's probably going to lose the Flash, too.
Yes. I think he most certainly will lose the Flash. I don't. Bill had read somewhere, like, they were going to reshoot the whole movie. I think that would be a waste of time and money, but I think they're not going to move forward with him. Like, I think that movie's already in the can. Like, it's done.
Yeah, it's basically done.
Yeah.
Just re-edit it so it's just Michael Keaton's movie.
Yeah.
Crap, I was going to say. Oh, would you call, like, the Fantastic Beasts movies, like, the prequels? Or are they like The Hobbit compared to Lord of the Rings?
I mean,
it feels like real, like, gilding the lily. I wouldn't
treat them with any sort of reverence at all. Like, I think
they're really that bad.
They're not very good at all.
I mean, Jen really hates them too, and Jen is such a Potter.
I'm a big Potterhead, and they're not good. Like, I think, well, okay, so actually, you know what? This shifts really well into how fans treat canon and how I think are very selective about what they like, what they want to keep, what they don't want to keep. Like, I know, and I include myself in this, I know a lot of people who treat Rise of Skywalker as, like, not canon.
Right.
Because it's so bad.
Right.
Because it is so obsessed with connecting things that it ends up making such a flawed movie that people just let go of it as part of the canon.
Right.
I think I think a lot of Harry Potter fans treat the Fantastic Beasts as like, oh yeah, that's not really canon. That's, like, just happening.
But, you know, it's funny. Just as many people, I think, treat The Last Jedi as non-canon.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or, to change topic slightly, people treat the last season of Game of Thrones as not canon.
Yeah, right. Okay, because George R.R. Martin didn't write that book yet. He was just
so it's more than just being bad.
Yeah. So there's a couple things happening there. Like, I never read the books. I watched the show. I watched the entire series.
There was a time in, like, 2009 when I was working the city a lot, and you would see a lot of let's call them Wall Street douchebags reading those books.
Yeah.
Which made me never want to read them.
God bless. They got a little bit into high fantasy.
Yeah, they read a few pages.
Good for them.
They probably put it down, but
yeah, they this is another case, like, where the author because they're still alive and they, like, Tolkien, that stuff, like, anything new, like, sometimes Christopher will sign off on, and they're like, okay, well, he signed, like, the kid, right. His kid signed off on it.
Peter Jackson was able to do things he wanted.
Yeah. So with George R.R. Martin, he wrote the books, but he never finished the series. I honestly don't think he'll ever finish the series. I think he's like, well, I don't know anything, and, like, he's suffering from severe writer's block, and he's just, like, distracting himself with other projects. But isn't he also farting out all
sorts of other books?
Yeah,
and stuff?
He's doing all kinds of shit. He's doing all kinds of shit except finishing the series. So fuck
Sit
him.
down at your fucking Commodore 64 and write.
Jazzy yourself up to the computer. So yeah, he hasn't finished the series.
Let down your suspenders and get to work, sir.
People are like, well,
he needs to come back to Staten Island and get some inspiration.
Go to Bayonne, stare over at Staten Island like he used to do, breathe in the fumes, and just, you know, get inspired. He didn't finish the series. I think fans of the series, when the first season started, were like, well, he's got plenty of time. He's going to finish it.
He'll get there.
He'll get there.
It's really a rabbit.
Dead and buried. It's gone.
It's a tortoise and hare situation.
They're going to start a new one. And
I wonder how that's going to be in terms of
I don't know
canon.
because that's all, I believe that's new stuff. But, so he was informing.
But isn't it earlier age?
It's earlier age, yeah.
So it's got to be based on something.
I think he did like a Tolkien-esque thing where he wrote a history.
So it's like a Silmarillion?
Yeah, it's like a Silmarillion. So anyway, he would inform the showrunners
of what he will
what
write?
he wanted to,
This
where
is what
he
I will
wanted
do
it
when I
to
get
go.
there? Yeah.
And then let them, finish up anything that wasn't written already, and then they would show it to him or whatever.
Wild.
But now that the last season was so poorly received, he's very much been like, well, this is not how I would have written it. And
so he's just going to change his mind.
I mean, he definitely told them like, oh yeah, this is where it's going to go, and then saw how badly
just
it was.
Leave him out to dry.
Yeah, now it's like, oh no, it's not mine. I'm just never going to write it. You'll never know. It can be great in your heads. So
wild.
Yeah.
So let's see if we could come up with an answer. Mm-hmm. Is it better to have one person or not?
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I think it's better if it's limited.
Yeah.
Because okay. So I think it's better if it is a limited thing. Like I think the Harry Potter series is beautiful. I think the canon is very strong. I think it's a singular vision.
Yeah.
And I think once you want to stretch that idea past where it needs to be, that's when you struggle with canon. And then it should just kind of be whatever you want it to be. I was interested in the Fantastic Beasts films because I was like, great, this is another way into the Wizarding world without having to be part of
that
the
new
Harry
one
Potter
is
universe.
Using the score from the original movies. They're in Hogwarts.
And then they just wrenched it back in.
It's
like, why? This world is so interesting
they want
to tell so many stories. but we don't want, nobody wants this. Like, they're not doing well. Like, these films.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We should say with Star Wars, though, it's not one person. Like, Kathleen Kennedy has final say, but they do have something that I think is unique, which is they have the Lucasfilm Story Group.
Okay.
It's a panel. It's a group of people that work on everything, and they advise to everything. Mm-hmm. And they are the keepers of the lore. And the head of the story group is a guy named Pablo Hidalgo. And, so if you're like Jon Favreau, like you'll work with them. Mm-hmm. It's this is what I think happens. Like, let's say I write a script and I go, he walks into a bar and then an alien says, fuck you. Like you go to a story group and be like, what alien should this be?
Right.
And they'll be like, well, this planet, blah, blah, blah. It could be that. It seems like they had the creators of the sequel movies had more, but they still had to be the fact check. Like, recently J.J. Abrams said, oh yeah, I know that destroying Hosnian Prime in the Force Awakens wasn't very impactful, but in my script it was Coruscant. And then the story group is like, you can't destroy Coruscant. We won't let you destroy Coruscant. And he was like, which by the way, he's right. If you had destroyed Coruscant, like the way you destroyed Alderaan, that would have had much more of an impact on the viewer because we've seen that planet a bunch.
Right.
So anyway, the point is with Star Wars, there's a group of people. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is that eventually it grows to be a monkey on your back that no one person or a group of people can handle.
Mm-hmm. I think, eventually you have to let it go.
Yeah.
But that's the power of reboots.
And prune. You have to prune.
You have to prune.
Like with Doctor Who, you prune things. You can keep what's good and then you could prune what's not. Mm-hmm.
I think that's more challenging for an audience to accept. I think they're fine with wiping the slate clean and let's do a reboot. Also, let's make another generalization. Mm-hmm. I'll make this generalization, and I'll include myself in this. Nerds sometimes could be a little bit obsessive compulsive. Mm-hmm. Yes. I
personally have OCD. So I think even more than your average fans, people that consume fantasy sci-fi, and dive into what's the name of every ship, what's the name of every planet,
right.
They can become really hung up on those things. Mm-hmm. And they will, like, I remember when J.J. Abrams' Star Treks came out, I had a friend who was a huge Trekkie, and he fucking hated it. And I was like, why? It's so much fun. And he was like, yeah, but did you see the engine room? Like, what is this, a fucking ocean liner? Like, that's not what the engine room looks like. Like, it looks like there's like steam.
Yeah.
And I was like, so you hate this whole movie. You are not entertained by it.
Yeah.
Because the engine doesn't look right. But if I'm sure I would be that way if fucking I've had conversations with people about like Ghostbusters Afterlife and fucking like, wait a second, I thought Gozer. Wait a second, what are the rules of Gozer? So
yeah.
So
well, but you know what? I would argue that with Ghostbusters, because although fans treat it like it's like hard sci-fi.
Yeah.
It is a comedy, and ultimately they play pretty loose with the rules. Like, they never really establish like an intense lore of Ghostbusters. It seems kind of loosey-goosey because they don't know what they're dealing with, so the audience doesn't need to know what we're dealing with either, necessarily, right?
Yeah.
So I think when you impose... Like, for things like Lord of the Rings, things like Star Wars, I guess, things like Game of Thrones, there's like literal rule books that the authors have written about like, this is the history and this is good, this goes here and this goes there.
Where it's like ancillary stuff like that with, at least in the fandom of.
I would say the films don't present as
the
such.
films don't.
Like, Aykroyd, I'm sure, has his own like set of rules based on his like weird family of like ghost hunters that he comes from. But like the films don't superficially present that way, where it's like, this is a very rule heavy universe.
But I've seen nerds say the proton packs are canonically like 70 pounds. How could that little girl put on a proton pack?
Well,
if Rick Moranis can't handle a proton pack in Ghostbusters 2, how is a little child handling it in Afterlife?
I mean, not having seen this movie, I would say technology advances. Like, a phone used to be attached to your house. Now you can walk around with one in your pocket.
I'm not making this argument.
I'm just saying.
I know. I'm just saying these are things people say.
Yeah.
Things nerds say. Things nerds care about. See, to me, as much as a nerd as I am, I'm always a story first person. Mm-hmm. Like, if the story's good, I'm for it. Like, I don't mind if you break, canon. I don't mind if all of a sudden there's like a new character all of a sudden and it doesn't totally make sense. Mm-hmm. But, I
mean, well, let's talk about Buffy, right? Like, Dawn showed up for the sake of a series arc or season arc. And it was a good arc, and it was fun.
Yeah, but that was kind of making. It was making fun of canon. Yeah,
it
was making fun of shows that do that.
Yeah,
and there's like a good 4 episodes before
they address like we never had a sister.
Yeah, like people were like, are they really just trying to fucking do this?
Mm-hmm. And canon wasn't what it is now, so it's sort of interesting.
Yeah, now it's even wilder. So let's talk a little bit, because this is just fun facts to go over. Let's talk a little bit about where canon breaks. Let's see. In The Incredible Hulk, Tony Stark is like creating the Avengers, and then that ends up being not how it works at all. Like the post-credit scene of Incredible Hulk has Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, and he all of a sudden is like, I'm putting together the Avengers, but that ends up not being really what happens.
Right. But he gets recruited by Nick Fury at the end of Iron Man.
Yeah.
So, okay. I mean, I feel like maybe he was just like out running an errand for Nick Fury. Like, I'll take the lead on this. And then he was like, you know what, forget it. I don't want to take the lead on this. He's so capricious with his whims. He was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Let somebody else handle this. I don't want to handle this. A lot of egos.
Yeah. What else? Star Wars has Lego things. And Lego things don't. Now, I've heard some nerds say they do count, but imagine it as like, it goes through a comedic lens. Like the things, like if you were to summarize what happens in the Lego things, those things are canon, but the funny way that they happen are not. Which is, again, it's a real bending over backwards to make things work.
Yeah.
Because you know what? The truth is, to really do this is hard. And you will paint yourself into corners. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, what was it? What do you call it? Which was the Marvel movie that ended with Thanos taking the Infinity Gauntlet and being like, I'm going to do this myself? And then...
Was it Guardians? I think it was the first Guardians.
But then he doesn't do it. Then Loki's the villain in the first Avengers. Like, he sends Loki to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And he ends up looking very different when we see him again.
Yeah, he does. He looks very different.
Also in, I don't know if they went back and fixed this, but if you look at Gollum in Fellowship of the Ring, he doesn't look the same way he looks in Two Towers and Return of the King.
Mm. That happens a lot.
Yeah.
Or they recast.
Yeah.
Like famously in the Twilight movies, there was a different actress in the first movie, and then when she became a much bigger character in the later films, they recast her with Bryce Dallas Howard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That we're willing to accept. Like, a change in actors, it seems, is something we'll...
Wasn't there a character in Harry Potter that was played by an African-American, and then when the character became bigger, they changed it to a white actor?
Oh, okay. Wait, or was it the opposite? It's the kid who's like the Grim in, this is in the Alfonso Cuarón one. Let's see. Yeah, they did do that. Okay. Okay, replaced in sequels. Well, I mean, there's the Dumbledore one. Of course. Dumbledore was replaced, but Richard Harris died.
Yeah, that couldn't be done. That couldn't be undone.
I
feel like, what's his name is playing a young Richard Harris, not a young Michael Gambon.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. But Bill made a very good point, which was they should have just gotten Jared Harris.
Yeah.
Like, there's an actor who's the right age, who's very good, who looks exactly like young Dumbledore, and it's Jared Harris.
Jared Harris, great in the Lost in Space movie.
Oh, really?
He plays grown-up Will Robinson in the future.
Oh.
You've never seen this masterpiece?
No.
It's so good.
Okay, it's Lavender Brown.
Okay.
So Jennifer Smith played Lavender Brown, and then once she became Ron's love interest, she became a white actor.
All right. There you go.
Just as a diversion for 1 second, I have a quote here. I was finishing the last season of Rick and Morty, and in the episode Rick Morai Jack, he's like, "Come on, Morty. The point was to do a simple episode. The Citadel runs on canon."
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because the last episode of the last season of Rick and Morty gave the fans what they've always wanted, which is
his backstory.
His backstory with his wife. But then the character looks in the fucking camera and he's like, all right, you got it? You happy? You have it now?
Yeah.
Which is such a weird, it seemed like such an angry fuck you to the audience.
Yeah, like, because it doesn't matter, because he did tell us the story.
Yeah.
He has told us the story. We just didn't believe him.
Right. But he ends up being like, it doesn't really matter.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it doesn't change what you know.
Yeah, so interesting. One of my favorite current things that seems like a real counter to canon thinking is everything with He-Man now.
Okay, yeah.
Everything with Master Universe now. Like, you've got Netflix now. First they own She-Ra, now they own everything. Mm-hmm. Netflix did a She-Ra show that was its own canon and even not connected to anything because there's no Castle Grayskull. In that show, in the end, the last season, when she says for the honor of Grayskull means something else. It's like the name of their team or whatever. So, but then they did the Kevin Smith He-Man Revelation, which was a sequel series to the original show, although it's very different. But then in the same year, they released a CGI animated show called He-Man and the Master Universe, and that was a retelling of the original. But that one I really like that one because it's almost like, because they've got these other things going on, there was this freedom to do remixes. It really feels like they took things from the original and just remixed it.
Yeah. And
updated it in all these interesting weird ways. Like, Orko is not a wizard alien. He's a robot named Ork-O.
Okay.
Ram Man is now a female character whose name is Crass, but then she turns into Ram Mam.
Okay.
Skeletor is He-Man's uncle.
Oh.
But they didn't come up with that. That was from the 2002 series, added that.
Okay.
So, it will pick things from other things that they want and not. And people hated the Kevin Smith show for being too woke. But people tend to like this other one, which I feel like it's unfair. Like, this other one really... And I like them both, actually. But this other one gets off scot-free by just not being the Kevin Smith show.
Okay.
You feel like, how can you dislike this? But this is so different.
We watched the Kevin Smith one, right? Well, I watched it because literally every time I turned it on, I would look over and Bill was snoring. So I ended up watching the whole thing.
Sure.
And I have no nostalgia. There's no nostalgia for me with He-Man, and I never watched it as a kid. So right. I'm just getting into it as an adult. I love Princesses of Power so much. So canon doesn't really matter. I'm learning about it.
Hot take.
Okay.
She-Ra and the Princesses of Power is the best Master Universe anything.
Wow. I believe it. It's very good.
But that's what's interesting with this is like, and I wish more people knew this about their own IP. They were like, the original stuff is iconographic, it's interesting, it's colorful, it's good, but it's actually really bad. So we don't need to treat it like it's fucking like gospel. Like we can just use it as a backbone. You know, the toys and the original stuff is just the backbone, and then everything else is a remix of it.
Right.
Netflix is also producing a live action He-Man movie.
Oh, okay.
Which will not be related to either of their He-Man shows or their She-Ra show.
But will it be related to the He-Man movie?
No. The He-Man movie also is not in canon
with
the original He-Man show.
It is not. And it was coming off of the success of the He-Man show. And so they're like, we're going to do something totally different and weird.
Yeah, He-Man is always He-Man in that. He doesn't turn from Adam into He-Man.
Right.
It's on Earth. There's no Oracle. There's no Battle Cat.
There's magical synthesizers. There's Frank Langella understanding the assignment.
Frank Langella now problematic because he just got fired off something for being a creep.
Oh God.
Yeah, there's no one you can like anymore.
Stop creeping, everybody. Or ladies, just say yes.
Oh my goodness.
Ladies, stop complaining. You should be so lucky. Frank Langella.
Come on, have you never seen Dracula? But no, like, I get, and it's so funny because, like, old nerds are like, but I loved it. And it's like, yeah, you loved it, but you were a baby.
You were a tiny little infant child, so relax.
Every He-Man thing has gotten better. Like, He-Man, although I like She-Ra more than the current 2 He-Man shows, but I would call all of these 3 series are better than any of those old series.
Right. They give you the template, and now you work on it.
Here's interesting names and interesting characters that are toys, and now fucking do it. Yeah. Did you finish He-Man season?
No, we didn't watch the second half.
So you didn't see the big fucking end?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God.
Well, okay, so let's talk a little bit about headcanon.
Yes.
Yes. So now, like, in the online communities, I think it started, I'm going to say, without really knowing, I think it started on Tumblr, where it was like people would, fans who didn't necessarily write full fan fictions. Right, because the fan fiction has always been a thing where people would write their own version. It's not quite fan fiction because it can just be a sentence.
Yeah.
Right? So this is very popular in the Harry Potter online community, or you'll just say, like, headcanon this, or, like, in my headcanon, whatever
it's like
it
background.
is.
Like, it doesn't contradict what happens.
In the blanks.
Yeah. Like, headcanon, I've talked about this before. I do believe that, what's her name? The character in purple from Turning Red is Boo from Monsters, Inc.
Adorable. Why not?
I believe it.
Why not?
And no one's going to stop me.
The Pixar theory is headcanon, basically.
Yes, yeah.
It's just like what people think. But sometimes headcanons become canon.
Yeah.
Or like when things become canon that you've thought in your head. Now, usually this happens as like slash fiction or fan fiction. It's usually like LGBTQ pairings. It rarely becomes canon, but when it does, people go absolutely insane. Yeah. She-Ra is one of those examples.
Catra and She-Ra.
She-Ra and Catra getting together has always been a thing, and then it became canon.
Yeah.
I've not seen this anywhere. I hope it's like an online thing, but when that happened, I was like, boom, boom. It was the sound of the cannon. Here it is.
There you go.
There you go. So wait, what did I want to say about headcanon? And specifically, no, okay. So I never watched the series. Actually, never watched really any of the series except for the one that everybody hates from the early 90s. But My Little Pony is an example of headcanon. Like a showrunner taking their own headcanon and making it the series.
Yes, right.
So I think it was Friendship is Magic.
Yes, Friendship is Magic.
I don't know her name. The showrunner's headcanon. Right,
that she made up for her toys.
Right.
She just took the toys and the names of the toys
and then just did whatever she wanted with them.
Yeah.
Well, and then presented it as such. And she was like, well, this is how I played with them when I was a kid. Let's make this the series.
Yes.
And they let her. And it ended up blowing up and becoming this huge thing because they just treated it like these are, these are the dolls, and now we're just gonna run with it. Like, this is just the basic stuff. Like He-Man, these are the basic elements of the recipe, and now we're gonna make something different with it.
Yeah.
And I think obviously that's a strength.
I'm trying to find her name.
And they've sort of run with that, because I think there's like a series that came after that where they're all like people. They're not horses. They're like people who look like the horses. It's weird. But, that is ignoring canon and opening up possibility.
Yes. Lauren Faust.
Okay.
Yeah, a similar thing was Stephen Moffat, before he was the showrunner of Doctor Who. And I've actually seen like screen grabs of this. He was like in a Doctor Who, like was on a message board, and he was talking about. This is when he was, I think, the showrunner of like his first sitcom that he did, and
was it Coupling?
Yeah. He said,
I watched that show.
Yeah, it was good. He said, my headcanon is that the word doctor comes from, we named doctors after the Doctor.
The Doctor. I like that. Yeah.
And then he made that part of the show when he was the showrunner. So headcanon can be.
River says it. She's like, it means healer. We get that word from you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other headcanons I have.
That you have of your own thing.
Yeah.
Well, a headcanon that became a show was when J.J. Abrams was the showrunner for Felicity. He said, well, Felicity goes away for the summer and has an internship with the CIA. And that became Alias.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That would have been wild if they really did that, though.
I know.
Just
like totally different shows. But yeah, I think it's fun. I think it's a space for invention. It's just fun. And
it's participatory culture. It's another way of reading into things and playing with things and stuff. So, well, that's it. I don't have any other questions about canon. I'm sure. I mean, this conversation could keep going.
But absolutely.
I do think
because pop culture engages with canon so much.
Yeah.
That everything is either a reaction to canon or trying to keep within canon.
Right. Currently, I'm much more interested in things like He-Man or DC, where they're kind of like, you know what it is? They're like, we have strong brands, and we're saying fuck canon. Like, it's not like there's like you go to the toy aisle at Target, which I do frequently, and you see like 3 different He-Mans. They keep them in the same He-Man section, but it's like, here's redones of the old He-Mans, here's the Kevin Smith He-Man toys, and then here's the other Netflix He-Man toys, and it's like, it's all He-Man and it's all fucking fine, and
and it's all for sale,
and it's all for sale. Well, Janine, I think we fixed this issue.
Did we? Good. I'm glad.
I think we
did.
fixed the problem.
I'm glad.
And here's a fun question: if you can take something out of canon from something you love, what would it be, and why is it the motorbike people from Boba Fett?
That's my answer. I mean, if I said like Baby Yoda, we'd riot, right?
Yeah.
It would just be.
But let's talk about just for 1 second, to not cut you off with the thing I asked you. Let's just put a little asterisk on. Isn't it interesting? Isn't the power of Yoda that Lucas never allowed him to have a species or a planet, and even now says apparently he is in contact with the producers of.
It's like, don't do it.
And he's like, you do Baby Yoda, but don't ever show his planet. Don't ever show more of him. Don't ever say. And there's something power about that. Something power about in this big
denying
bowl of
canon.
Yeah, in this big bowl of canon, saying this is unknowable.
Yeah, I think we can ignore enough that we don't have to totally take out, right? But I would say, because I feel like anything that would just ruin the property, and like the Fantastic Beasts stuff, it's like, oh, we just like hand wave those away. It doesn't affect Harry Potter at all. It's fine. But the Star Wars stuff, I think. This new trilogy is so muddled.
I know.
That I would I would love to erase it off the planet.
Just take the whole new trilogy.
The whole thing away and keep the stuff that's good and be like, hey, let's try this again.
Yeah, well, I've had this idea.
Let's just try this again.
It shouldn't be episode 7, 8, and 9. The 6 episodes should be the 6 episodes. And then the story of Rey and Poe and Finn should be spinoffs.
I like these characters a lot. I think that's the strongest part. And when they just ignore Finn and then ignore Poe and just like want to make it about Kylo Ren and Rey, which is fine because they're strong characters.
Right.
It's not fine to ignore the other two, but it's like, yeah, let's go with a story with them, but not try to slavishly attach it to the original trilogy. Like, I think it's just such a weakness. And then the TV shows are showing us like what we can do.
Right.
But it's still reined in by canon. Like, they're still trying to link the Mandalorian.
Right.
I mean, Luke is in the Mandalorian, for Christ's sake.
Right.
So, and in Boba Fett. So it's
in Obi-Wan.
And in Obi-Wan. Yeah. So I just love to get away from it a little bit. But I think if I had my druthers and I could change anything, I would genuinely just like go in a time machine and just let's have a plan. Hey gang.
Yeah.
Let's focus up. Let's make a plan.
Yeah.
Let's walk through what's going to happen here, what we want it to happen. And do we need 3 films? Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I get
What's
it.
the story?
I'm going to be a little less severe with my editing than you. And I would say, I want to cut out just one thing.
Yeah.
I would cut Palpatine out of Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, absolutely.
Him coming back is not
somehow
telegraphed in any
Palpatine
way. Yeah, I know. That line is the vagueness of that line is become itself a meme because of just how stupid it fucking is.
Don't worry about it.
And even that movie, that's a big fucking mess. I think Rise of Skywalker would work better.
Absolutely.
You know what? Even if you were like, you know what? Guess what? There was a clone of Snoke, so there's still a Snoke. Even that would work better.
It worked better, yeah. And also, like, Palpatine was just raw dogging some lady out there.
Was he, or was his son a clone of him?
Yeah, I don't know. Have I told you this? My favorite like tweet ever. Maybe we can go on record and say this is oh god, what's the name? Exegol. Okay, so the Star Wars like official account was like, did you know that Exegol is where Siths like did something or other? And Elijah Wood tweeted back, no, how could we?
the frustration.
Like, what? No, of course we didn't know that because no one's ever told us that.
No.
What is any of this?
I know.
I of course I hear it in Elijah Wood's voice, just like the plaintive sound of Frodo being like, "How could we possibly know this?
Could we?"
Yeah.
Well, on that note, this has been canon. This is PCMC. I'm Mike Bongiorno.
Is this episode canon for PCMC?
No.
Oh no.
Because I'm an alien. I'm here with Janine Gagliardi.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being had.
Oh no, not again. Fool me once.
We end our episode by saying,
go bye-bye.